What's going on, everybody? It's your main bro, Michael, making another video for MMA Bros. This is something I'm really excited to be able to get into, which is going to be UFC 252, which is going to come up here in a week. So I'm going to be able to really break this down and spend a lot more time talking about it compared to what I did UFC Fight Night, Alexi versus Derek Lewis. The first thing I want to talk about is, again, for this fight, is I want to talk about the big news that's surrounding the main event, which I think is what everybody's going to be tuning in to see, which is going to be Stipe, Cormier. Now, for those of you who already know, this is Series Tie 1-1. We've seen two different fights, in my opinion, from the first one to the second one. Now, Cormier did come out and speak about this. He said that the second fight, he had a lot going on, which is with his wrestling team, doing the podcast, and really what in peak shape he thought to be able to go 5 rounds. And so it kind of like he thought he went in there just a little bit lesser than what he did in the first fight, and that's what made the biggest difference in this fight. Now, when it comes to this fight, Cormier has been on record saying how much it means to him to be able to get this fight because of the fact that, he wants to go out knowing he did his best in his final fight. And he don't think that happened in the second one. He really wants this fight mostly for his own redemption. And another reason I think this fight needed to happen is because for Cormier to elevate his status among people, in fact, he's got to be able to say that he won a key rivalry in his career. We all know Jon Jones at light heavyweight was a fight that really didn't go Cormier's way either time. The second one being worse because he actually got knocked out by the man he hates the most, which is Jon Jones. Now, when it comes to Cormier versus Stipe, in the first one, he did something that I was really surprised and really shook by, was he got the early knockout, which I don't think a lot of people saw coming. And the second one, it seemed like he was really going to lean heavy on his wrestling, and he kind of stopped. And he talked about how that's the one mistake he made that he wished he can go back and redo and have back. It says it's something that keeps him up at night. In fact, he didn't keep wrestling like the game plan was. Instead, he kind of just fell in love with striking because he was winning some of the exchanges. Now, in the second fight, the biggest thing we saw that was changing was I feel like Stipe, for one, had a lot to prove. I think this is something that Stipe, for the longest time in his career, hasn't really stood out. It's the fact that, he's very, very hard to knock out. He fought Francis Ngannou, and it was actually one of those fights where Ngannou couldn't get him out of there. And then, obviously, Stipe ended up winning. Ngannou was an interesting fight for me because, that if anybody could knock him out, I thought that would be it. I didn't think it'd be DC, who isn't really known for his striking, and I think everyone can attest to that. He's way more known for the fact that he likes to grapple. He wants to continue grappling because he was an Olympic wrestler. So it's really where his whole point is when it comes to everything. Now, the big news that came out of this, the two big parts that everybody was talking about, is the fact that for one, when DC was on the show with Ariel Helwani, what he said is, he said, "I hope you bring your wrestling shoes. I'm going to do a lot like Curtis Blaydes did in his last fight." For those who don't know what happened, Curtis Blaydes on a UFC Fight Night, I want to say a month ago, maybe a little bit longer, fought Alexander Volkanov at heavyweight, obviously. And the only thing he did was literally just go takedown, takedown, takedown. Another takedown. So you guys get the picture. It was just takedown after takedown after takedown. And that's what Cormier says is going to happen in this fight. He says it's really just going to be him wrestling nonstop, not trying to do anything else, just wrestle. The only thing I'm going to say is I don't really see that happening because I've never really seen Cormier be able to do this. Now, he did go on record and say that he's been compromised whenever he went to 205 just because he feels like he's more of a natural heavyweight. And to lose those, I think he came in 243, almost 245, which means he had to lose 40 pounds to go into heavyweight, and he felt like that really diminished what he was able to do, which is surprising because, we're talking a man who was, I believe, actually a one-time light heavyweight champion. I guess technically two because he did lose to Jones after he'd been announced a champion, and then Jones got in trouble again, so then the belt stayed with Cormier, but technically there's no contest, so I would assume that the rings would say that he's a one-time light heavyweight, one-time heavyweight champion. Now, when it comes to this fight, the second biggest comment he made was the fact he was really illustrating the point of the smaller cage, which he said it's going to be single leg all day, baby. And what I mean by this is he's just going to attack the single leg. He says the leg's always going to be there for him to attack, and so he's just going to constantly start pulling that leg out, just constantly making Stipe defend the takedowns, which is something that he didn't have to do in the first one. The second fight, in the second fight, we did see a big slam that Cormier got in round 1 and was able to maintain position. And so it makes it really interesting to see if this is what's going to happen in this fight. Is Cormier just going to take down, and really do something that really he hasn't done? in a long time, at least from the fights that I've seen. And so when it comes to Stipe, he actually did, whenever they were doing negotiations, try to fight to get a bigger cage. He thought he wanted the standard size instead of the smaller cage, which is something that Dana White was like, "Whoa, we're not going to do," because Dana White's been on record saying that he don't think it makes that big of an impact on the fights. A cage is a cage. Again, the fighter says something different. Now there has been cases where the size of the cage did kind of play a factor in the fight, and one of the biggest ones is one that Chael Sonnen actually was talking about. And what I mean by this is the fact he talked about Matt Mitrione, who was a former contestant on the UFC Ultimate Fighter. He was on the same series, I think, as Roy Nelson, who's the person he was fighting. He said that he called beforehand when he fought Roy Nelson the first time and really wanted to know what was going to be the size of the cage. And he said, it's really going to affect what I do. And so what happened was they said it's going to be a regular size cage, and then when they went to the venue, it was a smaller cage. Roy Nelson won that fight. When they fought the second time, it was a big changing of the fight. It looked like Mitrione was more natural, able to implement the game plan he wanted to do. So, I mean, that's just one case of it just off gate, where the size of the cage has played a factor and kind of really helped out the grappler, or should I say, kind of limits your game plan. So, now Stipe did say that, his training camp, they do have the smaller cage, which is something he's going to be really natural with, and it's not something he's going to have to fight. He says he really thinks that, he's already comfortable. It's not a big deal to him. It's just something that he preferred, which was having the bigger cage. They told him no, and he's perfectly fine with that, which I do believe him. I think Stipe really thinks he's a better fighter than Cormier. It's something that he said after the first fight, going into the second fight, was he really thought he's the better fighter. He thinks he's the better fighter in his mind, which is something that you don't see a lot. A lot of times you're going out there to prove it. And I think the same thing happened with Cormier. I think Cormier, going into the second fight, just thought he was just going to finish him. Easy fight, easy night, move through the division. But that didn't happen. He got finished in the second round with those liver shots, which I'm really interested to see how many liver shots Stipe is able to throw this time around. So again, for this video, I did want to do a deep analysis of something that's going to be coming, so you don't have to worry too long for that. But it's something I really want to talk about, what's the news surrounding this, and kind of give you guys what's going to be different, what's changing when it comes to news, when it comes to this fight. So like always, if you like this video, leave a like and comment. Again, this channel, I really want to be very candid about the talks we have. So just leave a comment if you want to go in depth with more or something. Is there some kind of news I've missed that I really didn't talk about that's really going to impact this fight? So again, make sure you guys comment anything you guys want to share.